Hello, everybody. Welcome to Just Shelve It. I'm Jesse Arnold, and it is 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday night, and I'm bringing you my next episode of Shooting the Shelf. So, I got some folks out in the comments. Michael, Curtis, Will, Sean. Welcome to the chat. Thanks for joining us tonight. I got Curtis on standby here. Bring him here in a moment. So I just want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. This has been a lot of fun. The last couple of weeks, I've talked to a couple of friends that I've known for quite a long time. Curtis is a relatively new friend that I've met through the Cabal, the Mythic Legions Cabal over on Facebook. So this is going to be a really exciting conversation, I think, and I hope everybody enjoys it. Feel free to hit us up with some questions and stuff in the comments, and we'll see where this goes. All right. If you want to applaud, you can. People in home might be a little worried about what you're doing, but I'm going to bring Curtis on here. And let's see. Got my assistant computer over here. Let's see if this works.
How's it going?
Curtis, hey, how's it going, man? Yep. Oh, there we go. I keep looking. Got some applause there for you.
Oh yeah, one of my and future roommate Billy Beige there.
All right, because you guys are going to intern for a day in November, correct?
Yep. We kind of had a deal where we both were going to put in for it, and if one of us got it, we would take the other one. And I ended up getting my name drawn. So yeah, he's a little crazy actually. He's going to drive up here from. I'm in Missouri. He's going to drive up from down south, I believe in Louisiana. I think he's got a 10-hour drive to me, and then we're going to have a 14-hour drive to New Jersey. So,
oh my gosh.
So it's 14 hours back and forth for me, but it's going to be 24 for him. So that's a lot of time in the car.
Yeah. Where at in Missouri are you?
St. Louis.
I was going to say St. Louis. I went to college in Springfield, so I drove out that way more than I want to admit from Pennsylvania. So
nice. Springfield, Illinois, or Missouri?
Springfield, Missouri. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool.
Excellent. Is correcting with Mississippi.
Oh, Mississippi.
That's right, though.
Yeah,
that's right. Bill, you're now from Louisiana, just like Jeremy Gerard's from Maine, right?
Yeah,
Maine, Canada.
Yeah, I have won a few raffles. Good with that.
I won one. Well, I mean, the intern for a day. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I won two of the dwarf ones as well. So I did pretty well with that. I got the Matt O'Toole one, and then I got the community project one that was, I think most of it was painted by Zombie 13. So pretty lucky with a couple of the raffles. So Cullen and his wheel have been good to me.
Yeah, that wheel's been good to a lot of people. That's awesome. So I will be joining you at Intern for a Day as well, along with Sean there in the chat. Excuse me.
Yeah, lucky Sean for a second time, huh?
Yeah. Yep. He's going with me. What are you doing? We're doing that. Obviously G-Con's the next day, and then he's going to be helping me. I've got a table at Legions Con. I think you do as well, correct?
I don't have my own table. I'm going to be playing at the Wolf King Customs table. So I work
nice
with Len and with Wolf King Customs, and so Len said he had some table space that he was going to let me use. So I'm excited
awesome.
That's one of the main reasons why I'm driving, is so that I can transport things back and forth and not have to have the anxiety about shipping it. But there's some other travel things that I know we were going to talk about, some mental health stuff later that kind of get into. So
Awesome. Danny, that's awesome. Winning a cakewalk. I don't think I know what a cakewalk is. Is that where you walk around cakes? I don't.
never heard of that before.
They're talking about mayonnaise. I'm not bringing that up. Mayonnaise is horrible. That's cool. Yeah, shipping stuff. I was real nervous doing that first set of painting stuff for Jeremy and Legion Shop, packaging it all back up, and I'm like, I hope nothing breaks and the paint doesn't get all rubbed off by the time it gets there.
Yeah. I actually,
very cool.
I did ship a few. I think it was like 3 customs that I sent to Len for a show that they had in New Jersey not too long ago. It might have been ToyCon New Jersey. I'm not sure. I can't remember which one it was, but I was really worried that like some paint was going to chip off or something like that. But they turned out okay. But I feel a lot safer driving them. That's for sure.
Yeah. Sub Savage G. Very cool. So what are you like, full customs, just heads and pieces? Or is that you're just saving that as a surprise for the convention?
No, customs. I think I'll be bringing a lot of pieces that are mostly Wolf King custom parts. So a lot of God's Fire, Mud Thumps, things like that. But I'll have a few unique pieces that I know people have talked about wanting to see in person. Got the Calabos that I did from Clash of the Titans. Seems to be pretty popular. I've got a couple gnomes that I've done. So a couple of those pieces as well. But I don't know that I'll be selling anything there.
Okay.
Just kind of displaying. So
very cool. Oh, Billy's offering you security.
Nice. That'd be nice.
And yeah, I'm ready for that ride. I think he's Savage G's talking about hooking up with him and Brian Almeida go to PowerCon at the beginning of August.
Oh yeah.
So it's just kind of a win and a prayer to get there.
I knew I wanted to go to one this year. It was either going to be Legion's Con or PowerCon. And I think, from what I hear, it sounds like the show is shaping up to be pretty good at PowerCon, but just with them changing the format and stuff, I wasn't real sure about it. Whereas Legion Con is like, man, I got to get there. Like, it seemed like so much fun last year and I missed out on it. So
yeah, I've never been to PowerCon, and I know Matthew Dooch posting here as Legends of Grayskull. He's talked about how the shift in what PowerCon's focus is and everything, and I'm okay with it because I've never been. But I can understand people not being like super excited about it. But I'm more excited to go because some of the horsemen are going to be there. I think, what is it? Jeremy and Jim are going to be there, and just getting to ride with Brian and George Greg. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on names. There's so many names. To ride out there is just going to be fun, and getting to meet more people. Because when I went to Legion's Con last year, like I went with Sean, known him since I was 8 years old. So like I knew him, and then one of my coworkers, Douglas, he also showed up on Sunday, but I wasn't in the community yet. I wasn't really super deep into the line, so I didn't know anybody there. So like a chance to go out to Ohio for a couple of days and hang out with people and geek out over toys is definitely appealing.
Yeah. I think it'll be a good show, and depending on how what I hear from it, I may try to go next year, especially it's in the same space, because Ohio is definitely a lot closer to me than California. So
yeah,
if I was gonna drive, Ohio is the way to go. So
yeah. Sean and I were talking about going to it to bump into Matt and some of the other people, and then like a couple of days after we started talking about it, they announced what do you call it? They announced Legion's Con, and we were both like, yeah, we're doing that one.
Yeah.
Um,
So
yes,
speaking of PowerCon, you got any guess on the tribute figures?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It could be anything. I know they like to surprise people with stuff, but they
Hmm.
also like listening to fans. I mean, I've seen was it Fisto and Beastman are I think the fan favorite or the heavy favorites I've been seeing mentioned the most.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I could
um,
see Fisto for sure with that Magnus head, and then I think the Krampus stuff would lend itself really well to a Beastman tribute. I wouldn't be surprised to see a buzz off with those new wings from the Sphexians.
hmm,
I'm not sure if those are completely done yet, but if they rushed a few of those wings out, I wouldn't be surprised to see a buzz off. So
that's possible. Yeah, it could be. I mean, I know they said. Um, Now, I don't know if I'm reading this wrong. I'm pretty sure either in the post or on the Four Horsemen of Clock, or maybe it was Jeremy's Mythic conversation last week.
mhm.
He said they're going to be totally new characters and new pieces in this that we've not seen before. Is that correct? Do you remember hearing that, or am I?
Yeah, I kind of thought that because the way that Jeremy had worded it, he said like we were going to get. He said something like we were going to get pieces, parts that we haven't had in hand yet. So I kind of assumed that that meant like waves that we haven't gotten that we've ordered, maybe are on pre-order. So
Okay.
like a Lithia, you know, the Deluxe Legion builder or something like that. But then he clarified in Facebook later and said, no, some of these parts are parts that you've never even seen before, but we've kind of had planned for a while. So it'll be neat to get some new parts to the line as well. It's really nice for customizing to have a little bit of variety so that you don't have everybody wearing the
Yeah.
same like spiky pauldrons and
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah. I've been seeing in the Cabal. I've been seeing some people getting their um seeing Lithia figures and stuff in, and I mean, I can't wait. I cannot wait to get those in hand because I didn't get in on the I wasn't in early enough to get on the pre-order through Store Horseman.
Mhm.
Um, but when I started looking at figures, they were available to order on pre-order, and that wave, especially the the hero side of that wave, was like I had Thistlethorn at that point, and I think I had like two or three other things that Sean had gotten through the Cabal for me or whatever with
Mhm.
trades, and but that wave really stuck out to me. So like the Centaur and the Moose and Krotos and so I'm really excited to get those now that I know what all the parts are and how everything changes. I'm really excited to get those, and I need to hopefully
Yeah.
snatch some more of those up at Legion's Con.
Yeah, I got into the line right after the Alithia wave had closed for the pre-order. And initially I had placed some orders on Big Bad Toy Store, but then the more kind of I got used to being in Mythic Legions and seeing like the in-stock sales and how people will have things up for trade and sell and knowing that I may go to Legions Con, I canceled my Big Bad Toy Store orders because it's a little paying a little bit of an upcharge there, and I'm just kind of banking that I can get them for a better price, hopefully at Legion's Con, if not
Yeah,
before. So, so that's kind of my hope. But yeah, I've seen some people getting these figures, and man, I got to tell you, some of them, like just seeing people having them, it they look even better than what I thought they looked like from the original shots, and that's nothing against Trevor, but
no, no,
like couple sleepers, like the Krotos figure, I think a lot of people were sleeping on, and now like you're starting to see him, and I think he looks pretty awesome. And then the Bardrick too, or I think that's how it's pronounced. Man, that figure looks amazing. And I mean, he was one that I was kind of on the fence on, but now that I'm seeing people get him, I'm like, some of the parts on there and just the head sculpt itself, pretty awesome. So I'm pretty excited about that Alithia way. I'm just gonna have to wait a little longer than most
yeah,
since I get in on the so
yeah. I'll be waiting for either Big Bad or if they're at the convention before Big Bad ships in
yeah.
November. Um, uh, yeah, I'm gonna leave my ones on Big Bad for now, just for the ones I absolutely want to make sure I get. Just
Mm.
yeah. Um,
Yeah,
Still
I
gotta.
think I think what happened with me was at one point I had my Big Bad pre-order, like that, where like you can view the stuff you have in a pre-order. I had like 3 or 4 pages worth of stuff, and I was like, man, I gotta slim this down, like because this thing hit me, and it could be pretty hard, hitting all at once.
Yeah.
And so then I like went through and I was like, okay, what can I cancel on here? And so Lithia was the wave that I canceled because I was like, I think I can probably get it at a better price, whether it's an in-stock sale or at Legion's Con. So took a little bit of a chance, but we'll see if it pays off. And if
Yeah.
not, if I can't get it, in stock sale or at Legion's Con, I do have quite a few figures in the garage from Legion Builder Wave and All Stars and things like that. And I can trade. I got some trade bait as well. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Very cool.
Which that's part of the hobby that you don't really know at first too, is like, buy more than what you think you're going to need, because you can always trade it later, for something else that you do want. I don't think, not enough people talk about that, I don't think.
Yeah. So the first order I was actually able to get in on with that I was able to put money into and get stuff was the reinforcement wave, which was in stock sale type of deal. So I ordered a couple, and then I went back and ordered a couple more like later that same day, and then did some more like a week later. And then I was like, I got them in hand, and I hadn't started customizing stuff yet. I mean, I wanted to, I just hadn't actually got all my paints out and started working on everything. I don't know how many dwarves I've gone through. Like I've got 2 that I'm refusing to customize to keep as bronze dwarves, other than some part swapping. But like, it's like I want to have a couple of those guys, but I need more dwarves, more dwarves, more goblins.
Well, that's pretty good. I'm not sure, what kind of topics you had to discuss, but in terms of getting into painting, like what was your first thing that you actually started painting mythically? Like what got you into painting?
Into painting Mythic Legions?
Yeah.
I guess it was later last fall, a couple weeks, month or so before going to Legion's Con, between talking with Sean and my coworker Douglas, finding out he was in the line as well. I just went blank. And he was talking about like all the customizers. They were talking about Jeremy Gerard and Nikki Nicole Cheney and like other people. So I started looking at there, and then Planetary Dog. I started looking at the 3D shops, and Wolf King, Legion Shop, all that stuff. But I didn't have figures to put pieces with yet, so I didn't really know what I was getting into.
Right.
But I knew I wanted to make like a black lion. And I saw that head on Planetary Dogs. It was the lion, and I was like, all right, what do I have to get to put that with? And eventually I figured out pieces and some 3D parts from a couple different places and put a character together, because Beastmaster was a favorite movie of mine as a kid.
Oh, same. And sorcery stuff.
Yeah. So I wanted to make a lion, because he had the black tie, like all his animals were black except for the ferrets, and I wanted to have a black lion that was kind of a tribute to my appreciation for that movie. So that's how I got into it. But I think the first thing I painted, and it's funny, I was listening to Jeremy this week on Mythic Conversations, or maybe it was on an older episode of Legion's Cast. I can't remember much last week. Is like, if you want to get started painting, like don't paint a dwarf first.
Yeah.
Like a face with a face. And I think that was one of my first, because I did like a goblin, a dwarf, and I made like a custom of Vivi from Final Fantasy IX, the little mage thing, out of a Sam from Trick or Treat. So I did those like all in the same day. I don't remember which one I painted first. So I was like, well, I'm not saying it's great, but I did a full-faced dwarf on one of my first ones. So
yeah, how
about you?
Start with, that's for sure. I think for me, I mean, obviously it can be intimidating when you're seeing all these great artists in the Cabal, and Nikki and Dennis and Jeremy and Zombie 13 and all this kind of stuff. And but I think there's a certain level of peace and like just freedom of stress that comes from painting. It's so like it's probably the best thing that I've ever found that makes me feel happy in terms of just taking that stress away. And so one of the things that I know I wanted to talk about, and I reached out to you, is like how do you get into it? How do you motivate yourself to start to get into painting? And my take is just start with something small. So like my first one that I ever put paint to was a cavern dwarf. And like, if you look at it, I mean, it's a Legion builder figure. It's all a solid color, and just painting the details. Like if you look at figures and they've got like, on the torso piece, it's got like the striped sections and stuff. So just putting like black to that, which is very forgiving color, because if you mess it up and you get a little bit in the wrong spot, it just looks like it's dark shadow or something. So, painting some borders, like just adding some accent pieces can really transform the look of a character without like going into these detail pieces like a dwarf face or something, which is a lot more complicated. But, or, putting some, like doing some dry brushing on some pauldrons or a weapon or a shield, like those things are fairly easy to do. The amount of skill that it takes to do that is not very hard. And it's a good way to get started, in my opinion, for those that have kind of stayed away from the painting because they're a little scared to do it. I think that's a good way to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like I did the face, and my eyes are pretty much just solid colors. Like I haven't gotten into doing the pupils and all that stuff yet.
Yeah.
But I did that. So I did the head and the beard and everything. But then I started getting into the details on that, and that was nice. And I've been challenging myself with a custom that I'll be showing on Legion's Lair next week, not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday. Where I wanted to kind of push myself with some of the finer details on that same standard armor. So like and I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. I'm not saying it's the best, but it was a step for me. So yeah.
Yeah, I think like I had done some painting with other figures before coming to Mythic Legions, and a lot of, I talked about it on my Legion's Lair episode, that I really started with a lot of the old Masters of the Universe figures. I mean, you go to a flea market, you can pick up some old Masters of the Universe figures for $5 each. They're not very expensive. There's just so many of them. And, so just even like touching some of those up and restoring them, or, trying to create new characters with those, it's really cheap and easy to work on. But if you were to start with the actual Mythic Legions figures, I mean, I would take like, we get these figures that have 2-3 different heads. Take one of the extra heads, just start practicing putting some paint on that. I mean, we get all these extra accessories, heck, even like the wing adapters and stuff, like just seeing what paint will do, and what different looks you can get by combining different colors and stuff like that. So that's what I would recommend.
Absolutely. And I got into painting stuff with D&D minis, and then I did some Marvel Legends customs. And Mythic Legions figures are by far, I think, the most accepting of paintwork. Just the way they're jointed and hinged, the details, even just the material of the plastics in the toys themselves, I think just takes paint so much better than any of the other lines I've messed around with.
Yeah, I agree. And like, I've seen some people that like the one bash on Mythic Legions is kind of the articulation, that doesn't have double jointed this and that. And so there, you can't get the same poses as you do on another figure. But the benefit of that, in my opinion, is it looks more realistic. Like the way that they layer the armor pieces, it covers up the joint. So like the way that the part from the boot goes over the joint for the knee, like covers up that joint. So when you're looking at that figure, especially in some of these great shots you see like Trevor do or Nate Strong, like you see them do these great scenes, and it looks like a character from a movie. It doesn't look like a figure. And same thing when you're painting. Like if you don't do a great job on a joint, or you get some paint rub on a joint, because of the way that armor is structured, it's going to cover up a lot of that. So
Yeah.
I think that it works out really well for customizers, and then for the photographers as well. Like, it just looks amazing.
Yeah. Destination Stone is asking how you feel about Gundam markers, and I don't know if I've ever. I know what Gundams are. I don't know what Gundam markers are.
So they've got these little markers that are used for Gundams, like making lines and drawing different axes on Gundams and stuff. And I've heard some people talking about them, so I picked some up, and I specifically picked them up for using on like eyes. Like, I thought, okay, if I could get a blue Gundam marker and make a little blue pupil there, and then put the the black dot in the middle, like, this might work. It didn't really work well for me. I like them. That's not to say that somebody else won't like them. You've really got to find out what's best for you. And I know, like, a lot of people in the Cabal and stuff talk about, well, what paint do you use and this kind of stuff. And it's the same thing. I think it depends on what you get familiar with and what you like. I personally use a lot of Citadel. I use a lot of So-Flat paints that Sherry recommended last year at G-Con. A lot of people, will use the Armory Painter paint, or the Leho, or even like the craft store paint. So, I think you just got to find the tool that works for you. And if that Gundam marker works for some people, that's great. I didn't like it myself. So,
okay. How's it going, Colin?
Hey.
Yeah, I saw some of those. What do you call it? The like the mirror, like the chrome markers I've seen like get advertised in my feed a lot, and part of me wants to try it, but at the same time I've seen people say, like, as soon as if you touch it, even after it's dry, like it ruins the finish. So I'm like, well, I move my stuff around a lot. I'm not going to get something I can't touch.
Yeah, and I've messed around with those too, and I haven't had a whole lot of success. I have found just painting, especially like metallics. I know there's a lot of people who use like the craft store metallics and stuff. And my Action Figure Customs just had a video today where Nikki was doing some tutorial and kind of walking through a paint job she was doing. And I think she explained it well that, some of those paints have like a heavier metal fleck to it, and it's not as forgivable when you're painting. It can either get clumpy or whatever. So I really like the Citadel metallics that I use. But you really got to find out what works well for you. So, I mean, I've tested a bunch of different ones, and I would just encourage people to, hey, I know like Jeremy uses a lot of the craft store metallics, and if it works for you, it's much cheaper. So, it doesn't hurt to buy a couple of those bottles for cheap and see if you like it, especially if you're doing dry brushing. Like if you're dry brushing some, metal on, shield or sword or something, those craft store ones are going to be a lot cheaper for you than buying like a Citadel paint. But yeah, just test it out and see what you like.
Nice. Yeah, I use my comic shop carries like the Army Painter war paints, so I use those. I've got a bunch of silvers and some other colors just because were different than the stuff I was finding for the craft store stuff. But then I've been using like this color shift stuff from the craft stores. I really like that. Like I'll use like this, and I'll mix it with a different color to maybe just get it. I'm not huge on shiny metallic stuff myself in general. Like if it's really crisp and shiny. So like the gold elf soldiers, Legion builders, I wasn't too excited about those initially. But I wanted to build on my elves. I got them, and like the gold's still a little bit much for me, but I think a couple of them lined up looks a lot nicer than I was expecting them to.
Yeah, I want to talk about that color shift paint, but I saw a couple people mentioning about wet palettes in the chat.
Oh yeah.
For those of you, if you've never tried out a wet palette, if you do a lot of painting, I can't recommend that highly enough. They've got one on Amazon that's about $12. And typically if I find out that somebody's painting without one, I will just send them one. because it's so good. It allows you to blend paints real easily, and it also
Okay.
allows paints to stay wet longer so they don't dry.
Okay.
So if, I've had projects where, maybe I work on it today, but I need to finish it tomorrow, rather than trying to remix those paints and get the same color that I was using the day before. By leaving it in the wet palette and closing it up, that paint's still good the next day when I open it back up.
Oh, nice. I need to get one of those.
I can't recommend a wet palette enough. Now, what I will say is the one that I got, and I sent one to Billy, they come with like these paper. It's basically a sponge that's in a tray, and then it's got these papers that go over top of it. So you wet the sponge, and then you put this paper over top of it, and it kind of soaks through, and you put your paint on top. I don't use the papers that come with it. I just use regular parchment paper, and I cut it in rectangles, and I use that. The water will soak through there a little bit through that parchment, and it keeps your paints really wet, and it's a lot cheaper than buying those replacement papers. So yeah, I just use parchment paper on the, and you could really make your own if you wanted to. Like I've seen people get like a Glad Lock container or something, and just get a sponge and put it in there and wet the sponge and then put some parchment over it. So you can make your own, but I mean, for like Amazon, you may as well pick one up.
Okay.
It'll change your world though.
Awesome. If I have something I want to know I'm going to want to reuse, like this is my goblin green, orc green. I made this like 2 months ago. It's still usable. I looked at it earlier for the forest troll I was going to work on. But yeah, I definitely need to get a couple of the other ones that I didn't make as much in those little jars. They're just dried out like a gummy mess now. So
yeah.
Someone asked about the color shift. I think it was Dan. Yeah, Dan, you asked about the color shift paints. They do go on nice. They go on like quality like any other craft store, but they're kind of thin. And I learned the first time I used it, you want to put a solid base color underneath it. So if you wanted to use like say the yellow one, which yellow, I don't know if this is true for you or maybe it's just the yellows I get. Yellow is one of my most hated colors to work with.
Yeah.
It goes on so thin. I'm going to do so many layers with yellow, but you get a nice solid base flat color underneath it and then put the color shift on. And I think that really helps with those pop. If you're doing it on like the bronze dwarf, like that gunmetal gray they have, it'll go on there pretty nice, but it's still pretty thin. It's more of like a sheen rather than like a solid pop. So if you want it to pop, put a base color that matches. Excuse me, sorry. Matches whatever the main color you want to pull out of the color shift. So if you're doing a green color shift, at least as far as that brand goes, that's my recommendation for that.
So the only experience I have with the color shift so far, I bought a set of the Vallejo ones, and I tested it out on some standards. I had bought a bunch of Baron Volligers because it's an awesome figure to make customs out of. And so I had all these Alithia standards that I wasn't using on my display. So I just took them flipped them on the back side, and I was testing out the color shift paint on the back of there just to see what it's like and how they did stuff. And I watched some videos on it. I know that it works a lot better if you use an airbrush. So the things that if you put like a gloss black down first, and then you airbrush the color shift over it, it really improves like the color shifting ability of that paint, which I don't have an airbrush. Use one. It's probably something I need to test out at some point, but it's not something I've gotten into yet. But I do have a figure that I'm going to try to do some of that color shift paint on here soon. It's one of the God's Fire characters, so I'll let you know how it goes. I'm excited to try it, but you just got to try new things and see what you like, see what works well for you, and how it comes out.
Yeah. I used it again with some of the stuff I'm going to be showing on Legion's Lair. Like I'll mix the color shift with a different color, like a different metallic or a different like base color, just so it's not so shiny and get some thicker opaqueness to it. And I really like, and they're mostly on like the reinforcement style armor colors. So like it went on really nice. And I really like how it gives you a little bit of pop, a little bit of shine, but it's not like full on like metallic gold or something,
Right.
Which is my preference,
The one thing I knew you were saying about the yellow, I did used to have that problem with the yellow in terms of like so thin and having to put so many layers until I started using the Stow Flat paints. So if you haven't tried those, like that's another one that there's like a set of 6 basic colors on Amazon for, I want to say it's like $36. And they're pretty big containers. They've got a lot of paint. And like flat paints, you only need to apply 1 layer. You don't need to apply multiple layers.
Oh wow.
The coverage on it is amazing, and I know that's what they use a lot when they're doing their like prototypes that they're painting at the studio, is those so flats. The brand I think has only been out for about a year, so there's not the same amount of colors as you would get from like Vallejo or Citadel. So you do have to do some mixing and matching when it comes to getting your colors right. But if you're just needing like a basic black or a yellow or a white, those so flats, I would put those above any other paint, in my opinion. So I would recommend anybody checking those out if you haven't already tried those.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I definitely need to. I think this is the second or third time. I know you've mentioned them before. Mm-hmm. I think Jeremy talked about them, or someone has recommended them while I was watching him. So yeah, I got to give those a try. And yep, Michael's Plug-in Legion's Lair in the chat.
Yeah,
I'm very excited,
guys.
That's gonna be a lot of fun.
Guys have a lot of energy. Sure.
So I think I know where this is gonna go. If I remember from the campaign.
I was not pro Yellow Demon because I felt like I don't need a Azar in my collection as is. But one thing that I will say is that I've heard, throughout the whole course of the campaign, and people were talking about it. Somebody had mentioned yellow orcs, and my ears perked up, and that's what I'm going to be doing. So every Azar that I get will be orc, just so you guys know.
Nice. Yeah. So you can army build for Melina's race, or Melena, however you say her name.
Yep.
The evil intruder. Yeah.
The other thing is that I don't. I mean, a good thing is I've got some spares at this point, spare feet, especially with the hands and feet pack came with some bare feet, and then just get some extras with along the way. But the characters that come with hooves, it really limits the amount of stuff that you can do. If you don't want to make a hooved character, and I hate switching out. Like the peg in those feet is really hard to get in and out. It's not part that's as easy as some of the other parts to pop apart. So I don't like the hooves a lot. But yeah, those yellow Azars will become orcs in my book. So
awesome. And Danny's asking, it's so flat, like SO flat, right?
Yeah. Capital S.
Okay.
Capital F. So flat, and it's all together in one word.
Okay.
Some Michaels carry them. So like I know I've talked to Stephen Bishotti, and he's able to pick his up like at Michaels. My Michaels didn't have it, so I had to order mine online. And they have, if you go to Amazon, you can buy the individual colors, or you can buy. They have 2 sets of 6. There's a set that's more like a pastel type colors. So if you're Easter eggs, that might be good. But the other one is just like basic 6 colors, and that one alone gives you, like, I've been using that black from that So Flat for since GCon last year, and there's just so much paint in those things, and the coverage is so good that you don't waste a lot of paint with them.
Okay, Matt, I'm not asking that question. Matt Duch has got a running question in our my messages with him and Sean, and I'm not bringing that up in here. Matt, you're just gonna have to find that out at Legions Con without my assistance. That's all I'm gonna say to that. We'll just leave that a
Yeah,
mystery.
I think it comes down to the size of the individual. You know.
Oh, can you see the comment?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
cool.
I would say on average about 3. So.
You knew I would skip it. Hey, I pointed it out even if I didn't bring it up on the screen, Matt. Come on. So you were saying about earlier, jumping back a little bit to what's like getting started painting, and like how it's very oh, what word did you say?
Peaceful and stress free.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Man, they're going on about mayonnaise in there. Guys, we're getting serious here. No, so what are some things you found or you have come up with to help get yourself into it, to get into the mode to start painting and get into that peaceful zone?
Yeah, so I have a lot of anxiety issues, and I actually have a diagnosed disorder of a panic disorder. So it's difficult for me at times to do a lot of things. I mean, especially if I'm getting ready to paint a new project or something, and I'm worried that it's not gonna be good enough, or I get all these thoughts in my head, and once I start getting into it, that all goes away. Like once you're actually like, you've got a figure in front of you and you're applying paint to it and you're focused on what you're doing, it's like the whole rest of the outside world just kind of disappears a little bit. For me, it's hard just to get started sometimes because it's like, oh, I've got to, set up my area and make sure I've got my brushes and my water and my, this and that. Do I have things primed? And, so I start worrying about all these things. And if I just get into it and, grab a piece and start applying some dry brushing, or grab a piece, I know I got to work on some detail work that's already sculpted out, and I'm just basically applying the paint within the detail of it. Something that I don't have to really think too much about. Just getting started in
Yeah,
doing that will then lead me into wanting to continue to do more. So if I just sit down and grab a coffee and listen to some music and start applying a little bit of, next thing you know, I've got a figure done. Because I just don't want.
awesome.
So that's how it works for me. It has helped me out tremendously. Um, it's, I don't know, like my weekends that I do get to paint, it's so much more peaceful than the weekends that I don't. That's for sure.
Yeah, I hear that. Yesterday I was cleaning because I'm getting ready for my Legion's Lair. I had to rearrange some shelves, and that took up way more of my day than I thought because I was pulling stuff out to sell off to go on these trips. Because with Legions now, I'm like everybody says, I'm downsizing this collection. I'm gonna get rid of some of that stuff and make room for Legions,
Yeah.
or So I was doing that yesterday, and then I went over to a friend's house to just kind of relax because I've realized like I need to do that too. I need to make sure I like go do stuff with people, interact, or like because I'll go the other way. Like a couple weeks ago, I started painting in the morning, and I sat in my chair for like 8 or 9 hours, and I like only because I made plans to watch a movie with my mom. She lives in Florida, so we'd call up and sync up a movie at the same time. And then as soon as that movie was over, I got back to the table and painted for like another 6, 7 hours. So it was just like I get lost in it. So I also have like anxiety and depression sparring from like childhood PTSD or whatever. And my counselor has been going through some other things with me. But like I get like hype. I don't know if it's hyper focused, but like I feel like it's hyper focused to where I'll forget to eat. Not that I mean, I could definitely skip a couple meals. But like I'll just get so into it. The only other thing that really gets me in that kind of mindset, like, and I totally agree with you about like peaceful, like I got one of the lamps with the magnifying glass recently, so like except for when like I get too close to it and like my breath like fogs up the mirror, like I get totally lost in what I'm doing. The only thing like that is when I write, I do writing,
Mm-hmm.
and that I can just sit at the computer and type, and hours will go by because I get just so lost in everything. So,
Well, like for me, like my every other weekend, my kids go and stay with their mother for the weekend. So on those weekends where it's just me and my wife, like a lot of times she'll sit at her computer and play video games, and I'll sit there and paint, and we may go hours without talking. But it's not like it's a peaceful, like quiet in the house. And, she's doing what makes her happy and I'm doing what makes me happy, and we're happy together. It's just doing different things that we enjoy. And I think that's important to make sure that you have something like that is a break from the everyday reality of, what you deal with at work or society or whatever it is. So
yeah, 100%. I got into painting. It was weird. Not to get too on a couch, like deep with stuff, but like, I was kind of in a rough spot going into Legion's Con, and it was definitely a lot of fun. Like, I almost didn't want to go, but we were doing it for Sean's birthday, so I wanted to go and have fun, and I'm so glad I did, because it feels weird to say that a toy line changed your life, but I think the toy line and the community, like, I haven't been this excited about something. And it's not just buying toys to put on the shelf, because like the Black Series, the Marvel Legends, all that stuff, like they go up there. The only time I ever mess with them again is if I need to like rearrange the shelf or add new figures or whatever. But like the Mythic Legions, like you just want to get them down. You may be like, oh, how does what does this look like if I pop and swap? If I put the hooves on this guy, or what's that going to look like? And then you start thinking about like painting and everything. And so getting into that convention. And then right as I was about to start painting, my counselor suggested medication, which I wasn't really excited. Like that almost sent me on a like a depressive episode that day.
mm-hmm.
Just because it's like, oh, what's wrong with me? And then but I kept telling myself, I'm like, no, there's a lot of people that do this. There's nothing wrong with this. This is so many people deal with these things, and ignoring it is the worst thing. So like I started on like a really mild dose of I don't remember what it's called right now, but and that same weekend I finally started painting, and it was just like the perfect combination of both of those things to like kind of help get me out of my head with the medication, and then the painting has just been like, when I sit down to paint, I always have like 4 or 5 things ready to go, because like I can't leave. I'm impatient when I paint. So like I'll paint one thing and I'm like, well, I can't do anything. I got to let that dry. I got to paint something else. So I'll pick up a different thing. And so I try to plan things like are in similar color schemes, but
I for me, I think that's part of the magic of not only the Mythic Legions line, but the Cabal that, what Walter and the admins have created there, because never seen a place that's so welcoming of different art styles, whether it's sculptors or painters or photographers. The community is such a warm and inviting place. And I know, you every now and then you'll still get, a little bit of drama, a little toy drama, where some issues and somebody's complaining about notices or whatever. But for the most part, the ball is such a welcoming place that it allows you to be who you want to be without fear of, other people, what they're going to think or say. And, one of the main reasons that I didn't go to Legion's Con last year is, because of my panic disorder. I was, I have a fear of things like, getting on an airplane. And, I'm a big guy, and I've had issues where, like go to an amusement park with my kids and I to the front of the line and I'm too big to ride the roller coaster. And you got to do that walk of shame down away from everybody. And that something like that can happen when I get up. And when I get to New Jersey, I need to rent a car, but I had an experience where I got a car from a rental place and it was this small little compact vehicle and the steering wheel was in my chest. And, so
oh man,
And then when I get there, like, what are people going to think of me and my art and all this kind of stuff? And so you get, for me, I get all these fears and panic in there. And as I watched the live streams from Legion's Con last year, talked to my friends in the call, and they told me how great and welcoming that place was. It made me know that I have to go there this year. Like, I need to be there. And I, more than anything, it'll be therapeutic just going there and showing off my stuff. And, the thing about this line and what we do is it's not a competition. It's not competing with Jeremy and Nikki and Dennis and all those. It's really about enjoying the hobby and having fun with it, and then just appreciating everybody's work. So I love it, and I think that it's definitely opening doors for people like yourself and myself that would have otherwise not interacted with these folks.
Yeah, like I have a friend who also collects, a couple friends who collect Black Series, and a couple friends who do Marvel Legends. But there's no I didn't want to be in any of the Facebook groups because I was in a couple at one point, and I'm like, everybody was just tearing up Hasbro one way and down the other, or whatever company it was that toy line was on. And I'm like, I don't need this. Like, I enjoy these things. Yes, there's frustrating things about everything in life, but like, you're going to get out of it what you want to put into it. So when I saw the Cabal, when I finally got in there, because Sean was telling me about it, like how the community was great. And then, like the buy, sell, trade stuff and just the customs, that I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And then just, it's opened up so much stuff. Like, I'm sitting here talking to you because of the Cabal, and half of the people in this chat because of Mythic Legions, and probably most of the people in this chat, forget half of it. And like, we haven't gotten to meet in person yet, but I just, it's just really cool how this line in the community, like you said, with Walter and all the guys in the Cabal and all the people that do the other shows, like Brad and Michael doing Legion's Lair, like that's so fun to just kind of like that kind of like, how did you get into it? I love their format, how they do stuff, and getting to see the tour of the people's rooms and stuff and everything, and the Legion's Lounge and Jeremy, like there's just so much. Everybody's got like a different thing they bring to it, so it's just really cool to be a part of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the thing that I really liked about Legion's Lair is that most of these other shows, the show is catered to that particular episode. It's different. With the Legions, your same questions and the tour and this and that. But there's something pretty awesome about that, because whether you have me or you or Corn Boy, it all starts out, we all like toys. Whether you work for Horseman Studios or whether you're somebody like us that just got into the line, it all starts with our love of toys. And so the fact that they go through and ask those questions and then go on tour and stuff with each guest, to me, is pretty cool. It's like we're all on the same playing field when it comes to our love of action figures.
Yeah, because you'll see stuff in someone's room, or like, oh, I have that, or I used to have that, or that's really cool. Oh, I want to get that, or like, oh, that's a cool way to do that display. It's just so cool.
Yeah, agreed. Cool.
So when you said you put on some music, listen to some, or drink some coffee, listen to what kind of playlist do you have? A set playlist you go to? Just listen to anything?
I have a couple different ones. I listen to a lot of like K-pop sometimes.
Okay.
When I'm painting, but it depends. Like sometimes if I'm doing like orcs or like evil quote unquote characters, then I'll play more like heavy metal. So it
okay.
Kind of some mood is that I'm trying to get across in my painting in what I listen to. So just kind of yeah.
Nice. I have a playlist. It's evolved over the years. It's on my phone now, so it doesn't have everything I used to have on like my old iPod. But and maybe this is a bit pretentious, but it's my playlist. I call it To Create Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what I would put on when I would write, and it's largely like movie and like uh, orchestra soundtrack stuff, like scores.
Yeah.
And over the past year or so, well, there was a group called ES Posthumous I found because they did music on the trailer for the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes. I thought that was really cool, and I found their whole library of stuff, and all their music is just like movie score style music, but it's not made for movies. Like trailers and stuff will use it or might get used in a movie, but it's not made for a specific movie. And then I found a group recently called Two Steps from Hell, which again has very cinematic,
Right.
stuff. Is very cool. So I have that, with movies, and I got the Who, the HU, the Mongolian throat singers. So
Yeah.
that's always cool because shortly after I discovered them, my D&D group, the DM, we were in a dwarven city, and he was like, "Well, just so you guys know, there's a festival because you guys defeated this thing. So imagine it kind of sounds like this." And he played one of their songs, and I was like, "This is perfect."
Yeah. Actually, I found what I think it's called medieval metal, and so like bands like Falconer is one of my favorites, new favorites that I found, and then Glory Hammer. Probably some people know those, but
Okay.
that type of music like puts you in the mindset of Mythic Legions. Like it's very, it's almost like a bard thing, but if you also added electric guitar, you know.
Nice.
So it kind of like you think about like the series Witcher, some of those
Yeah.
type where it's very like it feels kind of old and medieval, but at the same time add a little electric guitar to it. It's
Okay.
so
Awesome.
Billy,
Yeah, that just.
Glory Hammer, I believe that's a good one.
um, yeah, I occasionally, if I'm really into a show that I don't have to pay attention to, I'll put that on the TV in the other room and kind of watch because the TV's kind of right off the corner here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and it's nice. Ever since I got my paints out back in February or March, whenever I started doing, like, I haven't put them away because like I live alone, so I've got I've no one to clean up for. So I just my drawing table, which was usually just where I would drop my comics or my mail or whatever, is now just covered in my art supplies to go from. So like on either side of my camera here are like two spice racks full of paints and brushes and everything. So
Yeah.
And it's nice. The lighting's nice for the camera too. So
Yeah. That I paint in my living room because I don't have a separate room. I've my
okay.
still living with me and taking up all my space, and so I paint my living room. Got a TV that I pull out in front of me to actually work on that has one of those magnifying lights that's attached to it.
Okay.
Beside me, I have it's actually a makeup tray, a makeup like tier thing that
Okay.
to hold like fingernail polish. So I think if you like, and that's what I put a lot of my paint pots in.
Okay.
And I've got a thing on the coffee table that's got all my paint brushes and stuff like that. So that's kind of my setup. So that's one of the things too that it's like, when I'm done, I kind of have to clean up that area. So now it's back to the living room setup. And so
Right.
going to start painting, it's like I got to get all this stuff out and get it ready. I think if I had a separate paint area, it would be a lot easier just to get right to it and start going. So
Yeah. If I had to like set this stuff up every time, which was again part of the reason why it took me so long to get into it, is because like all my paints were like in a tub. I hadn't painted any of my D&D minis for a long time,
yeah,
and I just it's literally just walking over to my bed and pulling like a plastic tote out from under the bed and getting the paints out. It's not complicated, but when you're dealing with like the mental health stuff, like with depression or whatever, like a lot of people just think depression is just, oh, you're just sad, just don't be sad. And it's like, no,
right.
it's like I know I will feel better if I take a shower. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to get wet.
Mm-hmm.
Like something about that is just so like it's made me late for work because like I just don't want to do it. You know, it's just stupid little things like that just get so
Yeah.
prevent you from doing stuff. And so yeah, so I hope you can figure out a good routine or get like a better system that it's easier to like tear down and set up for you.
Yeah. See, and
With,
it, me with my panic disorder, it's like one thought leads to another, which leads to another, and it takes you down this whole path to where you end up with like this really crazy thought of, you know, that people are going to be thinking of you a certain way or looking at you a certain way. But really, like, they don't really care, you know? Um,
right.
so like, I actually had to take a few months off of work a few years back because of this. And I was just like, I became basically agoraphobic where I didn't want to leave the house. And
Okay.
there was a situation where my kids, my younger two are twins, and they had a play going on at school, giving. And we were living in a small community at the time. So a lot of the people that I work with, I knew were going to be there. And here I've been off of work for a little bit, for about 2 months. I'd been out of work, on FML, and anything physically wrong with me. It wasn't like I was going to go in there in a wheelchair or have a cast on, or you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I'm going into this thing like my kids needed me to be there, but it's like in my mind it's like, what are people going to be thinking about me? And so like I walk in, and like a bunch of the parents are already sitting down, and there's only like two seats left. One is like a little kid seat and one is like a teacher's. And so I sit in the teacher seat, and my wife sits in the kid seat. Well, now I'm like freaking out because my chair is higher than everybody else's. So now I'm sitting up higher than everybody else around the room. Clearly, everybody's looking at me. They're doing the play, and I can't think of anything besides all these people are looking at me, and what am I going to do, and how am I going to get out of this? And then afterwards, they had like people had brought in food and stuff, and they were like open it up to where people went through a line and grabbed some food, and I didn't want to eat because I to eat in front of people because that's something that freaks me out is like eating in
Okay.
front of people. So everybody else goes through a line, and now I'm the only person not eating in the room. So now I feel like everybody's looking at me because I'm not eating, and it's
Right.
those kind of things where it's just like, one thing after another, and it just next thing you know, you're so locked up that you can't do anything. And for me, when I'm painting, all that goes away, and I calm down, and all the thoughts leave. And to your point, it's one of those things where if you try to logic your way out of it, you can't do it. You can't tell yourself, well, the thoughts that you're having are crazy, just don't have those. It doesn't work that way. But if you can
Right.
take deep breaths and count to 10 and do something that makes you feel more at peace and takes that stress away, then it changes your whole world. And to your point, like it's weird saying that um a toy line changed your life, but it has. And
Yeah.
for me at least, and it sounds like for you, it has changed our life. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Like I, for me, obviously it's a little bit different of a situation, but I think it's very relatable, or I think we can understand the circumstance. Like for me, it's like like I watched a movie a couple like last year before I went to work because I would go in later in the day on Wednesdays. I watched a movie and I got pretty worked up about it, and it just hit me a lot harder than I was expecting. To the point, by the time I was at work for like a half hour, I told my one coworker, I was like, John, I was like, I can't stay. Like I couldn't make eye contact with my customers. I barely could talk. Like I just had to get out of there. Like there was nothing physically wrong with it, but like it just I never knew what was going to set me off. A certain song might just, I know everybody gets worked up about like trigger warning or whatever, but like it's a real thing.
Mm.
Like I never knew what was going to set me on, like a depressive episode or, like a panic attack or whatever. And I would just feel like I couldn't breathe. Have you seen Ted Lasso?
Oh yeah.
The Apple TV series? Okay. So
Mm.
that first season, spoiler alert, if anybody has not watched season 1 of Ted Lasso, there's that first episode where he gets to London and they're like, yeah, he's like, yeah, just let me freshen up and, we'll do this interview. And they're like, no, the press is waiting for you now. And he's in there and the mic starts like to feedback and everything. And then Rebecca steps in and like defends him to everybody. And the scene goes on. I just thought it was just the pressure of that moment. And then later in the season, you realize when they're at the karaoke bar, it's like, no, that was the beginning of a panic attack. And I was like, holy crap, that's the most representative in a movie that I've seen that relates to how I feel when that's coming. Like everything just kind of like shuts
Yep.
down, and yeah, like you just got to get out of there and breathe. And totally agree with you, Danny.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's for me anyway. One of the big ones, like the fear of the unknown, and it's like a big one that would really affect me at work is if somebody told me that they needed like my boss would say, hey, when you get a second, come to my office. I need to talk to you about something. Like immediately, I'm getting fired. I know if I try to logically think through this, I've done nothing to get fired. I do a great job. People like what I do at work. It's not like I've done anything worth getting fired for. But just my boss has called me in his office to talk about something without telling me what the subject is, I'm getting fired. If my wife were to say, hey, I need to talk to you about something, oh, she's leaving me. And it's that like I don't know what is going to happen in this situation. So immediately my brain goes to the absolute worst case scenario because and I don't where it's like, well, if I can deal with the worst case scenario, then I can deal with anything else that's less than that. So maybe I don't know. I don't know why it does that, but those are some of the things that I struggle with.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Whenever someone says, like, oh, hey, we need to talk, boss, significant other, friend, whatever, it's like, oh crap, what did I do now? And yeah, it's called being human. That's very true. But yeah, I'm with you. Like I'm like, all right, build this up. What's the worst possible version that's going to happen here? So I can prepare myself for that. And if it's anything less, I can breathe a little easier, and it's just, yeah, it just takes, yeah, Roy Kent.
Yeah.
And someone asked earlier, not to totally get flippant here, but no, Douglas, I do not multiply when I get wet. I do multiply in size depending on how much I eat after midnight, but
Gotcha.
Yeah, Cullen just said good news. Like at Legion's Con, it was sort of sensory overload because I had no idea what to expect. I hadn't been exposed to the Cabal yet. Like I didn't know. I mean, I'd been to toy shows and I had been at ToyCon New Jersey Saturday and as well. Danny, it's never going to be mayonnaise wet. I'm not even going to follow up that. So I think with this year being its own thing, specifically focused on Legions in the hotel for 2 days, and being so involved in the Cabal and stuff, I can't speak for you, but I think there's going to be so much going on and so much for everybody to see that, yeah, there will be times people will be looking at you and what you're doing and thinking about your artwork and stuff, but I think most of it is all going to be positive and cool, and they're going to be excited to see you there.
Right.
Again, I was just walking around last year. Up until a couple weeks ago, I was just going to be walking around this year too. But yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to go. Because that's the nice thing. Sean and I set up at Baltimore Comic Con about 10 years ago to do a comic I self-published, and he was selling prints of stuff he was working on.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like crowds. I get anxious in crowds.
Oh, yeah.
So if I would go to the movies, I would always go like 30, 45 minutes early so I could be at the front of the line. So
Yep.
like if there was a queue to like winding through the lobby or something, I wouldn't be like in the middle of like people and I couldn't get out if I needed to. So like doing the Baltimore Comic Con was always kind of, people are bumping around and they got carts and bags and they've got, like 16-wheeler sized carts of comics that they're getting signed and everything. So it was really cool to be at the table. Granted, it's Artist Alley, and that's kind of like the saddest place at a Comic Con. Like, unless you're ready to spend money or hear some really sad story, don't make eye contact with anybody in Artist Alley at a Comic Con.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I actually went to the movies with my wife yesterday, and typically what I'll do is I will pick like not the first movie of the day, but the one that's a little bit after that. So, like it's like if the first movie is at 10 o'clock, I'll pick the one that it's like 11 o'clock. So I know the theater that I'm going to doesn't have a movie before it. So the first movie of the day for that theater. But the movie theater itself, the building has been open for a little bit. So then I can go in and get my about 30 minutes early, not sometimes an hour early. Where I need to be, I've got everything that I need before. So I totally get that. And yeah, like some of the things like the other day, my was talking about going out and seeing fireworks for 4th of July. And I mean, my kids are now, plus. I was like, yeah, no, I don't think I want to deal with that. It's just like the whole thought of going out, being around a whole bunch of people in 90 plus degree heat with mosquitoes, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't need to deal with that.
Yeah. No, it's like Sean and I. We specifically tried to just be like completely reeling you in. There was a guy across the aisle from us. I mean, he was really good at like working the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
But like we're just like people would be like, hey, enjoying the show, and if they came over, we'd talk to them. If not, just wish them well. Because I always feel bad when I go to the Comic Con and I walk through artist like it's gotten to the point where I just avoid it unless I want to try to spend money. But again, I don't make eye contact because then they're like, oh, they looked at me. Come hear this story about blah blah blah.
Right.
And not that it's not great, but it's like I just spent all my money at the Frank Cho table or whatever else. And I think Legion's Con's totally different in that regard because like it's half toy show, half exhibition, like Jeremy says, and it's like you got that table between you and everybody else, so you've got that buffer if that to help.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a huge buffer, but it's not like people are gonna be like bumping up against you, as you're trying to walk through the aisles and stuff. At least I don't know. I'm assuming it won't be, but
yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I can't wait to meet you in person, and then everybody that I haven't met in person before, the people I bumped into last year that I didn't know who you were.
Yeah, I think that Legion's Con is going to be awesome. I think as much as I'm looking forward to Legion's Con, I'm looking forward to the geek, seeing the new figures and that kind of reveal. I think that's a really cool thing that they've added to the intern, and then the whole intern for a day experience. Like I'm just looking so forward to seeing the studio and all the things that they show us there, and just meeting everyone. I think that's going to be, for me, being my first Legion's Con experience. To also have the intern attached to it is a nice way to get into it, because it's like rather than being thrown right into that show with all these people and lines and all this kind of stuff, I kind of get the smaller version at the intern, up a little bit, which will lead into the Legion's Con part. So I think that'll be very helpful for me.
I agree. Like I did it last year, like I said, because it was just a toy show, ToyCon New Jersey, and being with Sean, like it, we kind of walked around. We weren't like we both did our own thing. He knew all the guys from My Wife Is Gonna Kill Me, and like the other podcasters and stuff were there. I'm like, he kept saying all those names. I feel like the I felt like I was the parent to the kid that studied all the dinosaurs. I was like, oh, here's a Sarcosuchus, and this is a Dimetrodon, and blah, blah. I'm like, I have no idea who these people are. I think Pete took my phone and took a picture of Sean and I. When I got my phone back, there's like 5 pictures of Pete McCarthy in my phone. And I'm like, who is this guy?
Did Pete just taking pictures of himself?
Yeah, he just like, as he was like he was pretending to take a picture of us, but he took like 4 or 5 pictures of himself first, and then he took a picture of us like in the aisle or whatever. But like, it was good time. Like, yeah, and I had met Jeremy DeWitt because I did on Legends of Grayskull. I did an off-worlds with Matt and Sean there, and then Jeremy joined on there, so I knew who he was. And then some of the people I had followed before, or not followed, but looked up before I went to the convention, like Jeremy and Nikki and some other people. And it was crazy. It was so much fun. But yeah, intern for a day. I can't wait, because hearing all the stories from other people, hearing what Sean did back in April or March, whenever that was. But yeah, doing that, the G-Con, to see the Necronominus wave get revealed. I'm so excited for that.
Yeah.
And then, so like that nice group of people for those 2 days, we'll be at a different hotel for those 2 nights, the Wednesday or the third, whatever the days are. So Friday I'll be at the La Quinta where the event is. So like, it'll just be cool. Like, it kind of feels like back in my high school days, I was in the church youth group. It just feels like it's gonna be that kind of a thing where like a couple of people went early to prepare for it, and then you got the whole big thing. So I kind of feel like that's going to be it's going to be so cool to go through all that. So I'm glad you're going to be there. And Billy Beige and who I can't remember. Is it Eric LeBron? I think I saw. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, Eric is going to be
there. Am I getting my Eric's mixed up?
Yeah, Eric said.
I'm trying to remember who was on with Legion's Lounge with.
I saw Legends of Grayskull asked, "Who's the person you're most excited to meet in person, and why is it?" Well, you know what? I was actually prepared to pick up the douche on the way to Legion's Con, and then I got the intern for a day. And if he was going to intern, I would still stop by and pick him up. But I guess I'll just have to meet him there for Legion's Con itself. Yeah. Couldn't get the extra days off work.
He got the offer to be my +1 first, just because Sean had already gone, but he said he couldn't get off work. So, yeah. So you can't be too jelly, Matt. I can't believe I just said jelly.
But no, I think I don't know that I could name one or even a couple people that I want to meet most, because it's just everybody. Like there's some people at this point that you come to know as friends that you've never even seen in person. So I think
absolutely
it's going to be a little overwhelming, but at the same time, I'm excited for it. So
yeah, Sean. I mean, come on, we've been friends for almost 40 years now. I think you're stuck with me. No, Sean, what you were saying? I don't want a silver medal. I don't want shiny stuff. It's the only reason I'm not married and I don't have a wedding ring, because I don't want jewelry. No, yeah, it's gonna be such a great. It's gonna be such a great event. Just to, I mean, even if I don't walk out of there, just getting to meet everybody and hang out is gonna be totally worth it. I'm definitely gonna be walking out of there with figures.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to how much it's going to cost me overall, just because, like I said before, I didn't get in on the Alithia pre-order, so I'm going to be trying to pick all those figures. Then you go exclusives. Then there's, I'm sure there's going to be stuff, customized pieces I want to pick up from certain artists. Like that's something that I've been trying to do since I got line is just get certain pieces from artists that I really enjoy. So like my first four that I wanted to get one from Jeremy Gerard and from Dennis Derby and Nikki and Zombie 13. Those are kind of like my big four. So then I got those. Then I wanted to get something from Steven, Lewis, and so I'm sure that there's going to be some stuff at Legion's Con that I'm going to pick up some painted as well. And yeah, I'm not forward to what that price tag is going to be that I'm going to leave with Legion's Con.
Yeah. I will say I was actually surprised. I got an ogre head from Nikki.
Yeah.
And again, this was before I was painting, and I'm not comparing myself to anyone else's skill, because like you said, it's not a competition, but like everybody's just got their different niche and what they do better, and or are still developing and everything. But like I couldn't believe the price on the head. I don't remember exactly what it was now, but I was expecting it to be a lot more.
Yeah.
Because I knew what some of the unpainted heads went for, like just to buy the head. So I was like, wow, she was not charging a lot for her paint on this.
Yeah, and I think, like, I've heard Jeremy say it before, like, nobody's getting rich off of customizing. Like, that's not, you don't, if you're doing it for the money, you're doing it for the wrong reason, because it's just not, the amount of time and effort, if you were to break it down into it, you're not making a whole lot back. But if you enjoy the process of painting, and then people want to have pieces of yours in their collection, like, that was something that I know we both just started working for Legion Shop, and something that I was really excited about is that, I'm going to paint these pieces, and it's not a matter of, what kind of money I'm going to make off of it or anything like that, but it's just the fact that people are going to go to Legion Shop and they want something that I painted. Like, how I've had people reach out to me after stuff went on sale at Legion Shop, telling me how much they enjoyed my paint job. That's terrific. I appreciate that more than anything I can say. So
yeah, I know. So I can't remember who. Oh, I feel horrible now. Someone posted that like they're in the cabal that the axolotl kit was for their daughter, and it's like their daughter's favorite figure right now. And I'm like, oh, that's great, because one of my best friends here, like his daughter loves axolotls too. So like all I was thinking when I was painting them was like, oh man, Ed would love this. Like,
yeah. Well,
that's really cool.
Somebody yesterday was talking about the blue demon head that I painted, the demon dwarf, and talked about that it matched perfectly with the Lord Dragul skin tones. And I didn't even try to do that. Like, I was just trying to make a cool demon head to go with a Legion Builder dwarf. So when they were like, oh yeah, I think it matches perfectly with the skin tone of Lord Dragul, I was like, well, hey, that's awesome. I didn't even try to do that, but I appreciate hearing that. So
that's awesome. Yeah, it's just and Danny in the chat, he was real excited to get the Oxalot, because he's doing this whole Danny, don't hate me, was it River Swift on Instagram? Yep, he's saying it right now. So okay, I don't feel so bad bringing it up because he's saying it. He wanted, because he's got, what do you call him? The Scurvy Legends. So he's doing like all these pirate themed characters, and they're so awesome.
Oh yeah, I follow his Instagram. It's a good one for sure.
Yeah, like the hammer he made out of the keg barrel.
Mm-hmm.
It was so great. River Swift icon. There we go. Why am I pointing at it? Let's bring that up there. Nope. Clicked on the wrong thing. There we go. We've been douched. Have a good night, Matt. Thanks for talking about mayo all night long.
I have to use that from now on. You've been douched.
I just think of that song. I'm not going to try to sing it. That'll be worse than Travis reading bios. I want people to come back.
Yeah.
So, worst things you could ask me to do: dance or sing.
I think they should have at GCon have Travis read all the bios. Characters. Not even like he could practice them ahead of time. Like he would,
Yeah.
you would hear the first take that he did on every single one of them.
Have some like medieval music playing in the background, and he's just reading the bios like throughout the day in the convention.
Right. So you have like somebody else that's translating it into English. So
rolled up like a deuce. No, oh, I'd pay money. I don't have to listen to that. Oh, come on. That's my favorite part of Legion's cast.
You need to open up Super Chats, and they have to pay you not to sing.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, there's an idea. No. Awesome. Well, it's getting close to an hour and a half here.
Yeah, I think I'm about ready to turn into a pumpkin here. My kids
are getting to
bed soon. So, but
okay.
Great talk. I
yeah.
really like this a lot.
Me too. We'll definitely do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
Maybe if not before, definitely after Legion's Con, and get to geek out over that experience and intern and all that stuff. So
plus I got to put another tally mark in my column for how many shows I've been on that you can't count you being on your own show. So that doesn't so I got
of course
one
not.
Have.
That's right. You've got one I'll never have. That's yeah.
Right. Tonight's Jesse's special guest is Jesse.
I could make that work. I do talk to myself a lot.
Nice. Well, I appreciate everybody that watched live and anybody that watches after the fact. And, one thing that I just wanted to make sure we got across tonight was that if you are struggling with any sort of anxiety, panic attacks, anything like that, you're not alone. If you need somebody to talk to, please reach out. But this community really can help. So
yeah, don't you don't have to suffer in silence. Like this is not. It's not the plague. It's not something that you're just going to give to somebody talking to them about it. It's going to be okay.
Yep.
And yeah, hit me up, message me on Facebook or Instagram, whatever. Curtis, you got your Instagram handle there, Sit and Smash?
Yeah, it's the @Sit and Smash. So,
all right. Well, thank you very much for coming on. This was really fun, and I'll see you in the Cabal.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye. Take it easy. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Look, how do I? All right. Curtis, if I kicked you out, I don't know. I didn't know. It said kick, not ban. Those were my two options. So, everybody, thanks for joining me tonight, and Curtis. This was a lot of fun. I'm really glad we got to talk about the mental health stuff. That was, it's been a real big thing for me the last year and a half, and I wish I would have done something about it sooner. So, just plug everything. Nothing's plugged in. There's nothing to unplug. All right, Curtis, thanks again for joining. Everybody, have a great night. Make sure you follow all the awesome people on Instagram. Follow the YouTube channels for Legion's Lounge, Mythic Conversations, Legion's Lair if you're in the Cabal. If you're not in the Cabal and you're not collecting Mythic Legions, get onto it. And Alt F4, I don't have a keyboard. This is an iPad. Anyway, thank you very much for coming out or staying in and watching. Thanks for all the conversations, comments. This was a lot of fun. I'm rambling on, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Thanks again. Have a great night. And until next time, just shelve it. Again. Bye.